Well, hello and welcome. This is the first lecture in your BA647 marketing course. And appropriately, the first thing we're going to talk about is what is marketing? And usually when I ask this question in classrooms where people can shout out answers, I get a lot of answers, none of which are probably completely accurate. As consumers, we're exposed to a piece of marketing constantly. That piece of marketing is advertising, and that's only one small piece of what marketing is. So advertising is the communication part of marketing, and it's certainly a very important part, but it's only about 25% of what marketing is overall. So if when I asked the question, what is marketing, the first thing that popped into your head was internet ads or TV ads or billboards or annoying phone calls or salespeople in shops or car dealers or something like that, that's a piece of marketing, but it's only a piece. And what you need to learn is that marketing is lots more than that. It's, in fact, that piece of it is the last stage of marketing after all the other marketing is already done. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. So this is really just an introductory lecture, kind of talking about what marketing is and giving you an overview of how a marketing plan is put together. And then for the rest of the course, we're going to, once we finish, I think maybe the first couple of weeks of lectures, which are overviews, we're going to go into depth in creating a full marketing plan, which requires understanding the entire concept of marketing. So what is marketing? Well, marketers use these 4 P's to describe marketing. And there are other ways to describe it, but I find this quite useful. The 4 P's of marketing, you'll hear about it over and over again. You'll hear about it if you end up anywhere connected with marketing. So product, price, promotion, and place. So product, obviously you have to have a product that you're selling, and that doesn't have to be a thing. It can also be a service. So those of you who are involved in the maritime business, your product is transportation. You're moving goods from place A to place B. That's the product. The product of the tug that's sitting in this picture in the background here, moving the state of Maine or assisting the state of Maine in leaving the dock in Castine, is their product is a service. They're providing a service to the ship to enable it to leave an anchorage, to leave a port, and safely and efficiently. So that's the service they're providing. There's no thing that they're providing, it's a service. So products can be things. Electronics, your cell phone is a product, a thing, but the apps on your product on your cell phone are not necessarily products. They are services. So you've got to think about what a product is, and obviously when you're marketing, you want to develop a product that is useful for the potential customer. So developing, thinking about that product is a big part of marketing. So if you don't have a product that is useful, it's going to be very hard to convince anyone to use it. Right? So that's product. Obviously, price is a big part of marketing. What are we going to sell this product for? We have to sell it at a price that people, or that the consumer will be able to pay or willing to pay, and also that will cover our costs, and perhaps if we're in a profit-making business, provide us with a return on our investment in this product. So price is complicated. We're going to learn a lot about price. It's not as simple as you might think, because we have to both cover our costs and meet the needs of our customer. So how do we do that? How do we price our product to both cover costs and meet the needs of our consumer? Promotion is the part we talked about to begin with. That's the advertising piece, the communication piece. So promotion is telling people about the product and the price of the product that you've developed, so that they're informed about it and may choose to use it. If I develop a fabulous product and price it at a good price, a price that people can afford, but they don't know it exists, if a tree falls in the forest and no one is there, does it make a noise? Well, we don't know. So if we develop a wonderful product and we price it effectively, we still have to let people know that it exists. And that's the promotion part. And the part that most people think marketing is about is the promotion part. So promotion includes both advertising and other kinds of promotion, like in things that we're familiar with, price promotions, sales, events, all that sort of thing. And then finally, the place is sort of where the logistics come in. The place is getting it to the place where it's needed at a cost that is efficient, at a price that is efficient. So the place piece is where the logisticians come in. How do we get our product from point A to point B because we need that product in point B to make it, to satisfy the consumer's needs? So that's kind of the final piece. So those 4 P's are the core of all marketing. And as you can see, the promotion piece is only one of 4, and it is about 25% of the total picture. So advertising is not marketing, it's a part of marketing. You need to have the product, you need to have the price, and you need to get it where it needs to be in order for promotion to even take place or be successful. So that's kind of the overview of marketing. Next thing we want to talk about is branding. So branding, what is it? What's branding? We've got a bunch of pictures on this screen, and I'm willing to guess that most of you know what every one of these pictures represents. So that's a branding at a very high level. We've got a disparate group of students, and yet all of us, I expect, know what every one of these images on the screen means without any words. Well, there's some words in this one, let's see, I can't use my finger, I've got to use the cursor, right? There's some words there, but they don't actually say what the brand is or even what the brand does. That's the only, and this one has some letters in it, and that's probably the least known of all of these brands, but most of you, or many of you, may know what it is. So not only do you know what this brand is, but you know instinctively what it stands for. So this one here, this is a pretty powerful brand. I expect most of you know what it is. Nike, the athletic equipment maker, initially footwear and then all sorts of other kinds of athletic equipment. And you all know instinctively what Nike means, and that may be good for you or it may be bad. You may have good thoughts or bad thoughts about it, but you know everything about it. So without saying anything, Nike has invaded your mind, and they have a place there. And they don't have to say we make wonderful running shoes or great basketball shoes or fabulous clothing. You know who they are and what they are. Same thing for this one, Pepsi-Cola. You know what Pepsi-Cola is. You know what Mercedes is. I've got my own favorite Boston Red Sox here. Notre Dame, Toyota, McDonald's, AT&T, and Apple. each one of these has a distinctive brand image that means something to you, the consumer. So why is that important for you? What does that do for you? Why is that important? Why is it valuable to the consumer? Why are brands valuable to the consumer? Forget about the company that has the brand or the organization that has the brand. Why is it valuable to you? Well, the primary reason is that it makes your life easier. You don't have to do a lot of research about footwear to know that when you go into a store and you see a Nike, you already have in your mind an image and an idea of what Nike is. You don't have to learn it all. You've learned it once. You know what it means, and therefore you trust that what you're looking at will continue to mean the same thing. Whether it's McDonald's, you know what the fries are going to taste like. Doesn't matter where you are in the world, they're always going to taste the same. You know that the restaurant's going to look a certain way and feel a certain way and have a certain menu. And that's valuable to you because you can make a decision to go there because you want what they're offering, or you can make a decision not to go there because you know you don't want what they're serving. And that's the value of branding to you. The value of branding to the company that, or the organization that brands, is that it provides that communication to you without them having to do more than put a logo, a triangle on the hood, and that tells you what a Mercedes is, and that Mercedes brand has an image. So that's kind of what we're talking about here. That's branding, which is part of marketing and really fits into the promotion part of marketing. So this is a communication tool. By the way, this is Notre Dame, if you didn't know. So the book that we're going to use is a marketing plan handbook. And we're going to start out doing a summary or an overview of what goes into a marketing plan. So there's your outline for marketing plan. You're going to be writing these plans as we go through the course. So start to familiarize yourself with this. So every business document of any length starts out with what's called an executive summary. The executive summary summarizes everything that's in the document into usually a single page. It's preferably a single page. It summarizes what you started out to look at, what your research found, and what your plans are, so that an executive can look at it and determine whether this document is the bare bones contents of this document, and then once having read the executive summary, can dig into the detail where he or she may have interest. So if I've read the executive summary, I can say, yeah, this is interesting. What do the authors think about the current situation? Then I can go and look at the current situation, and so forth. So that's kind of, or how do the authors plan to detail the implementation of their plan? So that's kind of how an executive summary works. Then we go through current situation, what's going on now. We'll go into detail a little bit on that. What our objectives are as an organization and any issues that may be related to that. Then we get into the real marketing analysis. Who is our target? We'll talk a lot about target markets in this course. Who's the target market? Not everything is good for everybody. So who's the target market for the tugboat in the background here? Well, I don't need a tugboat. I don't have a large ship to move. Who's the target market? If I'm going into the tugboat service business, who's my target market? I think most of you can probably answer that question right off without doing a huge amount of research, but maybe there are different kinds of targets even in a single port. Maybe there's a competing tug service and they're good at one kind of thing and I want to be good at something different. So who's my target? who my customers and what do they look like, and how do I want to position my product. So that's my organization. Once I've figured out who my targets are, who my customers are, and what they look like, and how I want to position, then and only then can I come up with a strategy to reach that target market. So then that's where my strategy comes in. Then I might put together my marketing programs, which may well include a lot of promotion, may also include some price issues and some place issues. Product is probably already determined by that point. Then we're going to look at financial plans, and we won't do too much of that in this course, but a little bit. And then finally, really, really important in any marketing strategy, or actually any strategic plan, is how am I going to implement it, and how am I going to measure whether I'm succeeding. So implementation and control follows at the end. So how am I going to implement this? Timelines, pieces of the plan, of the program, and then how am I going to measure whether it's actually succeeding. So that's kind of the overall look at a marketing plan. So market planning is systematic and structured. So we're going to have to do a fair amount of research and analysis. We're going to have to develop and document what we've done, and then we're going to have to implement, evaluate, and control. And it looks sort of like this. This is a pretty good chart. This comes from your textbook. So the first step is to research and analyze the current situation. Second step, understand markets. Third step, plan your segmentation, targeting, and positioning. Fourth step, plan direction, objectives, and marketing support. Fifth step, development your strategies. And six, track progress and control plan implementation. And what you're trying to do is put together something that adds value and builds relationships. So that's a pretty good outline of how you would market plan. Now, obviously, we're going over this just as a summary, so we're not going into detail here, but that's a pretty good summary of what you should be looking at. So what is research and analyze? This is your first step. What's research and analyze the current situation? Well, we want to look at external analysis and internal analysis. I think most of you have done, in the course of your education, maybe not all of you, but most of you have done what's called a SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And those opportunities and threats are external, and your strengths and weaknesses are internal. So we're going to use that kind of analysis to figure out what's going on in a marketing sense. So what's happening out there and what's happening internally with us, what's going on with us. So your external analysis for marketing is going to include all sorts of things. So demographics. I'm marketing to my product is targeted or is best used by a certain age, sex, religion, ethnic group, whatever. I need to know about the demographics of that. So I need to know how many people there are, where they live, what their economic status is, all of those kinds of things. So that's an externality that's really important. Who are my customers? And what do they look like? How many are there? How much disposable income do they have? All sorts of issues. Then we also may want to look at the overall economic situation. So we go back to that tugboat there. What's the economic situation in the port I'm operating in? Is the port growing? Is the port shrinking? Are there more and more ships coming in, or fewer and fewer ships? Is the type of ship that's coming in changing? Do I need to market to a different audience, or is it all just automatic because I have a monopoly in this port? Even if I have a monopoly in this port, it may not be all automatic. If I'm not as efficient as the port nearby, another port that serves the same market, then shippers may decide to use some other port, and I might be a piece of that decision equation. Technological issues. What's changing? am I dealing with a product that is technological? If I'm selling letter paper and everybody uses email, then I ought to know that. I ought to know that analysis, that email is becoming the thing, or that text messaging is becoming the thing, or social media, or whatever. What's the political legal landscape for my particular product or service? If I'm selling something that has, right now they've just legalized marijuana in a number of U.S. states, what's the political legal situation there? So a headline today in one of the Boston papers that the marijuana is now legal in Massachusetts, and there will be marijuana shops, but they can't accept anything but cash because the banking system, the federal banking system, doesn't recognize marijuana as a legal product. So if you want to buy pot in a pot shop, you're going to have to pay cash, at least for some period of time. So that's a political legal situation. Ecological issues, both my own ethical situation about ecology, but also the market's perception of ecological situations. And then finally, social cultural situations, which we'll talk a lot about as we go forward in the course. What kind of social cultural issues affect what I'm doing? And then internally, we want to look at our own strengths, which another word for that, and I think a better word perhaps, is core competencies. What are we good at? What is our strength? What kind of things are we good at? We're all good at something and less good at something else, and the same is true of organizations. Organizations can be very good at some things and not so good at other things. So understanding what it is that makes us special, what we're really good at, is really important. And then also the weaknesses that we may have, things that we're not particularly good at, that may need to be either strengthened or potentially outsourced or something. So understanding our own strengths and weaknesses, really important. And then what our competitors are good at, really important to know in a marketing situation. Who is our competitor? Who are the competitors that we're going to deal with, and what they're good at and what they're not so good at, and also what their strategies are. And you can usually determine your competitors' strategies by their communication. So if we know the price they're selling it at, we know the competitive product, we know price, we know their marketing message, we know what channels they're distributing in, we know all those things, we can figure out, to a certain extent anyway, what their strategy is, and then we can tailor our strategy to take advantage of that. So much like sports teams, if I know that the other team playing, let's say, basketball, and the other team is really good at three-point shooting but not very good inside, and I may adjust my defense to take advantage of their weakness inside and attack their strength, the outside shooting, something like that. So that's kind of the internal analysis. Other things we may analyze, what customers are doing, what our suppliers are doing. Our suppliers are really important to know, to understand and know, because we're dependent on our suppliers to provide us with whatever it is that we're buying from them. And if they have weaknesses and or strengths, we need to know about that. Distributors, those are the people that resell our product, so they're channel partners. So if I'm a manufacturer and I'm selling through wholesalers or retailers, I need to know what my distributors are doing. And then I may have partners in my business. So the partner with the tugboat might be the port authority in the port that I'm involved in, or it might be some of the shipping companies. Whoever know, I don't know who the partners would be, but partners. And then there are other stakeholders, the community around us, our employees. All of those things are all of those people are stakeholders in our organization, and we need to understand them. So that's step one. Step two, understand our markets. So markets that we look at can be business to consumer, or B2C, or business to business. So business to consumer markets, we're selling to the ultimate user. Business to business markets, we're selling to a business who's going to use our product to deliver their product in one way or another, our product or service. So the tugboat here is doing essentially a business to business approach. They're being paid by Maine Maritime Academy in this case, but by the shipping company in general, and they are selling their services to that business, and the business is using it to turn their ship around and get it out of the harbor, but that's the nature of their business. So we need to know everything we can about the customer. So there's some things there: who, what, where, when, why, how. How does Maine Maritime decide who to hire to be their target? Is there only one available option, or who knows? That's for you to figure out in a particular market. And understanding the buying patterns of that customer is also important. So step 3 is figuring out who we want to target and segmenting that market. And this sounds easy, but it's really quite difficult, and it's incredibly important. So segmentation is putting customers with similar needs, wants, behaviors, or attitudes together. If we understand the segment, then we can target the segments that we want to market to. We might target one segment, multiple segments, or we could mass market to the entire market. So if I'm selling a product like paper towels, I could target the entire market, just make a generic paper towel. Or I could understand my customers and I could target people who are willing to pay a little more for a paper towel because it's more absorbent or tougher or doesn't tear as easily or whatever. Or I could target a segment of the market that's very interested in price, so I could target a simpler paper towel that sells at a lower price. That's what targeting is. So we're going to figure out what the segments are. There's people that want, in my example, there's people that want absorbent paper towels, there's people that want strong paper towels, and there's people that want cheap paper towels. Those are 3 different segments, and who do I want to target? I could target them all. I have a really good, low-priced, absorbent and tough paper towel, or I could say I have the toughest paper towel and I'm a little more expensive, but I'm better. And then you want to position your product to meet that. So that has to do with the product place in the marketplace. So with paper towels, once again, I might be positioned as an expensive alternative that has extra features, or I might be positioned as a value product, a lower priced product, or any number of other places I could position. So even something as simple as a paper towel fits this category. And then the 4th step is to plan what we're going to do. Establish goals, short-term objectives. So goals are long-term. So in 5 years, we want to dominate the paper towel market. We want to have, 35% market share. Our objectives short-term are to increase our market share from our current 10% to 13% this year, and then other goals or other objectives as we go forward. And we need to balance these things. So in order to be sustainable, we have to balance, and we have to look at how this is going to affect the larger society. So if I'm making my paper towels tough by making them non-biodegradable, maybe that's not the best thing to do. So that's the beginning of Chapter 1, Part 1. There are some short questions that you have to answer before you go on to the next chapter. I will be doing this throughout the semester, so you'll have your lectures broken into pieces with some questions following the lecture. And I use those questions to determine whether you've actually understood what I talked about. Now, this is an overview chapter, so I don't think any of you will have any major issues with the questions. Just a couple of questions. Respond to those questions, and then the following lecture, part 2 of chapter 1, will open for you, and you can do part 2. So thanks very much for listening, and answer the questions following this, and then you can go on to part 2 at your convenience. Thanks very much.